Hello everyone. Welcome to what is the first of hopefully many. I think I'm gonna call these Commander crossovers, where essentially I take video games that I have played for my channel, and then I cross them over with Magic the Gathering. These are concept ideas of what I would do with this IP if I were to make Magic the Gathering cards. And with how popular, what is the word I'm looking for? With how popular the Secret Layers and the multiverse, Universes Beyond, that's the word I'm looking for. With how popular Universes Beyond has become in the past couple of years since we got our first one with The Walking Dead, it seems only fitting that I contribute my own personal thoughts to this idea and concept. I know not everyone is a big fan of the crossover ideas between Magic and other IPs for the Universes Beyond, and I agree to some extent. There are some IPs that I'm like, do we really need to have this crossover? Like, I don't really care for it. It kind of takes away from the experience of the game for me. However, on the flip side, there are some amazing things that Universes Beyond has done with bringing together a outside IP into Magic the Gathering. So with the popularity of it, and it's just something I've always wanted to talk about since I really started this channel, I'm gonna start doing my own, and we'll see how it goes. I'm very excited about this. I've been working on this crossover for a while, and I gotta say, there was a lot of work that went into this one, and this is small in comparison to what I'm doing for the next one that I've already started. So it's absolutely insane. If you've been following for the channel for a while, the idea that I'm going to be going for this is I'm going to do crossover sets with games that I've done relatively in order. So one of the very first games that I ever played for my channel was Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy, which is one of my all-time favorite games that I've ever played. I also need to slow down my talking a little bit, because if I speed talk this whole time, I'm not going to have a voice. And I feel like this is going to be a longer video compared to my usual Commander review and future Will of the Council videos that I'm going to be making. So I will try and slow down my talking for this one. This will be a longer video compared, like I just said, this will be longer, but that's okay. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get into it. So let's talk about the formula, and I will try to remember to do this for future videos as well. The formula for these videos is going to be, what is the IP that I want to talk about and make into my own concept for Magic the Gathering cards? Then talk about the mechanics that I personally feel would be fun and unique, and also, of course, flavorful to the game for Magic the Gathering. And those mechanics and stuff will vary depending on the game. This one was a lot smaller list of things that I wanted to build around. The next one that I'm doing has like up to 10 different things that I want to talk about. So that list of game mechanics will fluctuate from set to set, essentially, from game to game. And then after I talk about that, then I'll go into more of like these would be what I would consider the Commander precons to be for this set. The set mechanics will be kind of like focusing on, if you were to draft this set, these would be the archetypes you could build around, whether it's based on color, whether it's based on creature type, whether it's based on different keyword abilities or mechanic abilities. That would be the first block, and then the second would be, these would be like the precon commanders that really focus in on these different archetypes that you could build around, right? So that's what I'm planning on doing, and then after I talk about the commanders and what their decks would consist of, then I'll talk about some fun extra stuff, like how would the alternate art series look for this set? How would, what would be some fun Plains cards for Plains Chase? The same goes for Archenemy. If you are a fan of Archenemy, I designed a couple Archenemy cards. If you are a fan of Conspiracy, I designed a couple of Conspiracy cards. I even did ones for the Bounty mini game that they installed back in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Probably won't do anything for like the Clue thing, because Clue does have a strict set amount of characters that you need to play as for Clue for it to work properly. So no custom stuff for like the Clue thing, but I did try to make supplements for the other supplementary content of Magic the Gathering, if that's what you like to play. And I personally, at our group, we love to play Arch Enemy, we love to play Plains Chase. I think it would be fun to maybe try and bring in Conspiracy into my play group. We'll have to see how it works, because Conspiracy does focus heavily on the drafting aspect of the game. And then the Outlaws, as far as Outlaws of Thunder Junction, we played with it once. We did like a Star Wars themed version of it, where I kind of copied and pasted the originals from Outlaws, but I put them on Star Wars characters essentially, and it was fun. I think it'd be fun to try again. So I did, not for this set, but I will make Outlaws for the, what is that called? Oh, Bounties. There we go, Bounties. So for future sets, I'll try and make Bounty cards for the Bounty sub-game. So again, just to recap, because this is the first one, so I'm trying to make sure that I get this straight in my head. Talk about what the IP is. Talk about the mechanics of the set. That's how you would draft and build the set. Then talk about the Commander precons. And then talk about the supplementary items that you could and would want to maybe play with and build around from this set. So, without further ado, this is Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy crossover Universes Beyond. This is my concept of Magic the Gathering cards. So, getting into the mechanics. Gotta get my mouse in here, because I forgot that I started the video. So, one of the big things that I wanted to focus on for this set was the focus on eco. For the very first game in Precursor Legacy, there's a big focus on eco. Eco essentially is the energy that makes the world work in this game. And eco has various abilities. Blue eco makes you go fast, green eco can heal you, red eco can boost up your damage. There's yellow eco, there's dark eco, there's light eco. And so I wanted to make that a mechanic, and I didn't know how to build around that as a mechanic. And ultimately what I ended on is devotion, because the more there's like a little meter in the game that like tracks how much eco of a certain type you have, and it is essentially, it's a timer. Once it runs out, you run out of the eco essentially for the game mechanic. But I thought that would be fun to play on, is like that meter is how much devoted you are to that eco type and the benefits that that eco type gives you. So you could build it in any color that you want, and I did assign a color for each eco type. So starting, and obviously you're not going to see all of the eco types on this screen. You'll see more as we get on into it. I think one of the other things I should say real quick is that I made a ton of concept cards for this video. There are a ton of different concepts that I didn't even begin to build with because there's so much. And again, this game is small in comparison to what's to come. So there will be a lot of cards and ideas that I don't get to in this video, because again, I'm just trying to do an overview of what I would do if I could design a set. So if there are cards or creatures or things that you want to see in these videos that I didn't do, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to reach back out to you guys in the comments and maybe we could talk out those ideas. So again, back to eco types. The way that I broke it down was starting with dark eco. Dark eco would go for black, really focuses on like warping things and twisting them into new and different things. Dark Eco is kind of raw in its natural state of creation, and you don't know what you're going to get out of it, right? And then once you start to filter Dark Eco, it breaks up into 4 generic colors. So starting with green, green is all about healing, giving you life, providing life to the world around you. Blue Eco is all about motion and energy and pushing that energy forward, and it's a great thing to interact with artifacts. Red Eco is all about power and damage. It's a great way to boost a creature's damage, to double a creature's damage, just to really trample on through and hit your opponent's heart. Yellow is great at targeting things. It's a great way to snipe things. I kind of themed it around like the old archer mechanic where you could ping damage to your opponent's creatures. So it's a great form of removal for your creatures. And then light eco. And I should say that obviously green eco goes to green, blue eco goes to blue, red eco goes to red. Yellow eco I put in white, and then light eco is the purification or full filtering of eco in its pure state. So for me, and also because I ran out of colors to use, I made light eco a colorless thing, where it is pure, it's completely filtered in its fullest state, essentially. So now the problem mechanically with doing these eco types is obviously if I'm going to do devotion, how do I make this fun and interesting? Because we only ever saw devotion in one set or one block of Magic's history, which was Theros. So I really heavily relied on Theros playing to give me ideas on how to build this archetype. And essentially, the majority of it was pretty easy. As you can read on a lot of these cards, the Blue Sage will give you extra benefits as you have high amounts of blue pips on the board. Your devotion to blue is higher. Red Eco Cluster does the same kind of thing. Channeling Yellow Eco does the same kind of thing. And it is important to note, as you're looking at the screen, I'm sure you have noticed by now that there are several cards on this screen, at least Green Eco Vent and Channeling Yellow Eco. You can see there are colorless pips on there. The site that I was using to build these cards could not let me do a hybrid symbol of colorless and colored mana. There was no hybrid way of doing it, but I know that you can do hybrid in Magic the Gathering because the Reaper King from Shadows of Lorwyn has hybrid colorless and colored mana in its mana cost. So it looks a little janky, but Green Eco Vent is actually a 3 mana card. It has a hybrid mana of colorless green, colorless green, colorless green. So it is a 3 mana value card, but I could not get hybrid mana to work on the card design initially when I was doing it. So I'd love for that to hopefully change in the future. We'll see what happens, but the tricky part with doing light eco was trying to figure out how do you do devotion to light eco. So essentially what I came down with is in the reminder text, and I don't know if I did this as reminder text or if I did it as rule text. I should probably make sure I clarify that in the future. But for unleashing light eco, it gives you Unleashing Light Eco deals X damage to each opponent and destroy each permanent that player controls with mana value X or less, where X is your devotion to colorless. And it does specifically show that it is the colorless pip that you need. So numerical generic mana does not add to that. You need cards in play that have specifically the colorless pip on it. So I don't know how well that would work in the rules of Magic the Gathering and how like levels work, or how the creators intentionally made the waste mana symbol work in the game. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. But that is how I designed the eco for Jak and Daxter. It is Devotion is the mechanic, so you want as many pips of a certain type, so then you can get benefits for that effect. Let me see. Double target for red eco cluster, double target creature's power until end of turn. Target up to 3 creatures instead if your devotion to red is 5 or greater, which is really cool. Really fun abilities. Great ways to build around for devotion. I think this is an interesting build around with devotion that kind of really hones in. That was one of my biggest things. I was sad with the Theros block, is there just wasn't enough devotion. I would have loved to see more devotion. So maybe we'll see more devotion in the future from Wizards of the Coast, but this is my interpretation of devotion if I were to do a Magic set in Jak and Daxter. And then following following that up with the next mechanic or archetype to build around is, of course, artifacts. And one of the big things with artifacts in this game is there are precursor orbs and power cells. You need those in the game to further your quest, and at the end of the game you need all the power cells in order to unlock the secret ending of the game. So as a mechanic for Magic the Gathering, I focused on turning those power cells into power stones, and the precursor orbs are treasure tokens. So this whole archetype is about creating power stone tokens and treasure tokens and utilizing them to do crazy stuff. And the power cell door is an alternate win condition that you can use to win the game. Fun little like play on the secret ending of the game. This will probably be one of the stronger archetypes to come out of this design for this set, just because outside of this universe, treasures have such a huge focus and huge amount of support from Magic the Gathering already. So this will probably be one of the strongest archetypes for it. I don't remember if I think for the most part when it came to Power Stones and Treasure, I focused mostly on red, blue, and green as the colors that you would build around for this. But like most of these mechanics, you can find a lot of this stuff in all the colors, because again, I didn't want to primarily focus on colors with this set. I wanted to focus on what the set provided and then built around that. But this one's much easier to explain than the devotion with eco and how that works. This is just treasures, power stones, and be able to use the power stones to play crazy artifacts or to use crazy abilities. And then next up on the list, one of the other things that I wanted to focus on from this game was all the various missions and quests that Jak goes on with Daxter, and the way that he helps the people around the world, as well as finding random treasures and artifacts throughout the world. So I thought, in my initial building of this set, I landed on doing sagas as a way of telling Jak and Daxter's story. So sagas is the third mechanic that you can build around for this set. And like treasures, I kind of focused somewhat on colors, but you can build outside these colors. There are sagas outside of these colors, but generally the saga build around will be white, green, and blue. And yeah, sagas are really cool. I love sagas. I think that we can have a lot of fun and a lot of different ways to build with sagas in the future as we keep going. We've seen a lot of saga support and historic support throughout the years. We've seen it in bands from like the Doctor Who set. We've seen it with the Lord of the Rings set with Tom Bombadil. So we've already seen that sagas play a role in the Universes Beyond scheme that Wizards of the Coast is doing. So I think it'd be fun to like play even more with that. We even saw sagas in Assassin's Creed where it was like white, red, green sagas were a big thing for the Assassin's Creed set as well. So enchantment focus, and there are cards that care about when you complete sagas, and a lot of that inspiration came from Tom Bombadil and building around that archetype. And then lastly, we got to give some love to the antagonists of the game, which is, of course, the lurkers and the lurker threat and the dark eco threat of the world. So this is also a great way to play with a creature type from the set. So lurkers are essentially creatures that are twisted through dark eco that become these kind of monstrous creatures. And later on in the series, we find out that they develop their whole own culture and society, and some of them, a lot of them actually become good guys, which is really cool. But in the first game, they are the antagonists of the set, led by Gaul and Maya. So this is a variation of Gaul and Maya. These ones you can play by themselves, but they do have a partner. Obviously, there was a lot of text to put on those commanders, so they do underlap the set icon, which is a little sad, but this just really focuses on the unique, cool creature type of lurkers that exist in this realm. As far as the other creature types, you may have noticed that a lot of the people in this game have really long ears, like Jack has long ears, Kira has long ears, even Gaul and Maya have long ears, but I didn't want to go with elves as a creature type for them because that's just not the way that they perceive themselves as characters in the story. They are just people, and so for me I was like, okay, I'm just going to treat them as people. They don't really identify themselves with any race, so I'm going to treat them as humans because they are just people doing their thing, and they don't really care about the color scheme like elves do. Elves are primarily a green creature type, and since there are humans that can span the whole spectrum, I gave humans to all the generic characters, and there are plants, there are fish, there are so many different types of animals in this game, birds even. But lurkers very much stand out as a unique creature type from this set, so I gave them their own creature type arc to build around. And the color scheme with lurkers is they will essentially be any color that isn't white or colorless, and they will usually have black in them because they have been mutated with the dark eco to make them what they are. One other note to make on this slide is with the Boggy Swamp Ambush. This is my take of a battle. I think battles are really cool. I would love to see a evolution of battles, because the only battles we've seen in Wizards history so far, and of course that's a very young history for battles, is we've seen siege battles. So this is my take on a different subtype of battle, which is called ambush. And essentially, an ambush just has the flash keyword put onto it, so you can play it at instant speed to ambush your opponents. So I think this would be fun to build around. It's an interesting take on battles. I hope that it's something that we could see in the future. And then, of course, if you can complete this battle and be able to flip it over and cast it for its backside, you get this cool sorcery that lets you do cool shenanigans. I'm trying to read it. My screen is a little covered up here. There we go. Mill 8 cards, yeah, permanent hand. Yeah, so cool stuff here. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this take on battles. Maybe giving battles flash is a bad idea, because battles already act as like permanents with a sorcery attached to it. so maybe giving them instant speed might not be a good idea. Maybe having flash speed battles is a good idea, but you have to like build around it in a less powerful way, so it's not, you know, so it's not broken essentially. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. I think having different subtypes of battles would be a fun evolution and direction for the game to go as a whole, because it gives you another archetype to build around for unique deck ideas. Alright, and that's going to cover all the mechanics for this set that I wanted to talk about. You have Devotion for your devotion to the different eco types. You have an artifact focus that focuses primarily on power stones and treasures. You have sagas, which and of course the benefits of completing a saga, because whenever you complete a mission in the game, you usually get a power cell afterwards, but I kind of wanted to flavor it around the individual characters and what their goals were. And then lastly, we talked about the unique creature type to this franchise, which is lurkers. So they got their own creature type mechanic for themselves. So now let's get into what I would plan for the Precon commanders, and I did 4 of them for this set. So going back to the top of that list, focusing on the devotion aspect of the game, Jak and Daxter are obviously the main protagonists of the game, so they should be the headliner for the Eco Masters deck, is what I'm calling this one. As Jak is going on and completing quests and completing missions, he's also learning to harness the powers of Eco, which at the end of the game, he uses Light Eco to eventually defeat Gald and Maya. Spoilers, but the game has been around for a long, long time. I should put a spoiler warning. Should I put a spoiler warning at the beginning of these videos? Maybe I should. I don't know. I haven't done this before. This is my first one. Anyway, really cool card. I was very happy with how it ended up. The 2 big things to note with Jak and Daxter is, first of all, the mana value is very crazy. And I wanted that to be because when you play Jak and Daxter, because Jak is learning how to control Eco, and he's learning how to control multiple types of Eco throughout the game, by solving puzzles, by fighting off lurkers, by completing challenges with the various Eco types, he essentially masters the different colors of Eco by the end of the game. So his mana value is to represent his mastery of the Eco types. So it is a bit confusing to look at, but essentially, when you play Jak and Daxter, he gives you a baseline devotion of 3 to all the colors. 3 white, 3 blue, 3 red, and 3 green. Obviously, he does not use any dark Eco throughout the game, so he doesn't get any black pips. And he does not use any light Eco until the very end of the game, so he does not get any colorless pips. But he does get mastery over the colors of Eco. So, baseline, your Eco count, your devotion count is at 3 for all your colors in this commander. And of course, if you combo this with any of the gods of Theros, then it will give you even more devotion. Let's say you're playing with Ephara, the white-blue god from Theros. This gives you a devotion count of 6, I believe, because it's 3 white and 3 blue. So this would give you a devotion of 6 automatically for your Theros gods, which seems very powerful. And if it seems too powerful, I'd love to hear your guys' comments in the comment section below. Because obviously that is really, really cool and very, very powerful. The reason why I ended up feeling comfortable doing that with Jak and Daxter was because there's so little devotion in Magic's history already that I felt like giving it a strong, a very much over strong commander would help balance out that devotion mechanic. So that way your other devotion spells could have a lot of power behind them. Because aside from the gods from Theros that care about a combination of colors, all the individual colors that use devotion really only care about one color. And so unless you're building around that one color, it's hard to build a devotion deck for Commander. And it really, again, it just comes down to there's so little cards that care about devotion. If you want to build a mono green devotion deck, you're limited to X amount of devotion cards in green. So it might be a little overpowered, but I think this would be a fun commander to build around with devotion because it does give you a super strong base to benefit all of your devotion cards, no matter what color you're in. Second thing to talk about with Jak and Daxter is he does have mastery of devotion, but he's not like a sage or anything, so he doesn't have any like static abilities that benefit from your devotion specifically. He just knows how to use the different ecos. So instead of giving you benefits based on your devotion, he just simply can use the 4 different eco types that you would then sink your mana into. So gaining life for green mana, blue, and this card right here kind of formed the base of how I did all of the eco cards for their individual colors. Green I did for life. Blue really is about moving fast, and one of the cool things with blue is you're able to access different precursors. That's another race, another archetype that we'll talk about in future games. But precursors are essentially the ancient beings who built a lot of crazy artifact-based structures. But Blue Eco allows you to power them and access them, so it allows you to get through doors in the game. So essentially this is a way to evade artifact decks, as well as give your creatures haste. Red mana, very much about powering up your creatures, so for Jak and Daxter, it will simply power, it'll double their power until end of turn. So if you have a lot of red mana, you can go from 3 to 6 to 12 to 24 to 48 and really double up and hit hard with commander damage, which is really cool. Which is also why I made it 3 red mana to pay. I tried to make it as expensive as I could without being extreme. And then white mana, really focusing on that like ping damage for like pinging effects, really sniper style. So that's what I did for white. And Jak and Daxter can do that by pinging at a distance. Alright, now let's look into what you might see in this commander deck. Again, this is focusing heavily on the devotion aspect. So I have a couple different sages in here. The red sage, the green sage, the yellow sage. And they all have these very powerful abilities when you reach the devotion levels. And I believe I did it... I did try to raise the bar of devotion. With the multicolored gods of Theros, they want you to have a devotion of 7 of like white or black, or blue and white, or red and green. So they kept the bar high on that devotion count. So I tried to do the same for these sages, even though they're monocolored, because I really tried to put as much devotion support as possible. So I felt like I needed to raise the bar. So a lot of the monocolored gods require 5 devotion. These monocolored wizards or sages require 7, simply because I did raise the bar on giving as much devotion as possible. So, but once you do that, then there's really cool things you can do with them. The green sage can give your creatures lifelink and indestructible, which is just amazing. And I felt okay doing that because there's a lot more exile-based removal in Wizards' background right now that I felt okay giving your board state indestructible as an Anthem effect. And of course, if they want to stop you from reaching any of these things, they just need to simply remove your board. So you do want to build around that. But if you can build around it, you get really cool effects. One of the other things that I loved when building this was something like the blue eco vent switch is another one of these. It gives you a cool Anthem effect if you reach the certain devotion, but it also fits with the theme of channeling and harnessing all of the eco types, because as you have the blue eco vent switch in play, or the just eco vents in play, they provide colorless pips. Blue eco vent switch technically should have a mana value of 4. It should have 1 generic, and then it should have 3 hybrid colorless blue mana. So that way it adds to your blue devotion and it adds to your colorless devotion as well. Because as you are filtering and purifying the eco through these precursor artifacts, you will essentially harness light eco to a more powerful level. So really cool stuff there. Cards that I wanted to focus on, like the themes and certain scenes of the game, can be seen here. Like Act of Disobedience is really focusing on the beginning of the game, where the game starts in the introductions. Asking the Plants and the Rocks refers to even more of the prologue of the game. And then there's even things where we have sagas where it's talking about one of the many missions that Jak and Daxter go on throughout the game. The second commander archetype is going back to our artifact focus, which I don't know why I don't have the little descriptor up in the right corner. Oh, that's sad. I didn't realize I missed that. So this, I believe I called this, what did I call this? I think I called this Precursor Knowledge, because at this point in the game, the characters only know that the Precursors were an ancient civilization that left behind these crazy cool artifacts that we are trying to figure out how to use. So it's called Precursor Knowledge, and it focuses on the Power Stones, it focuses on treasures, and it focuses on artifact synergies. It is led by Kira, who is the daughter of Samos. She's one of our allies throughout the game. And you'll notice here the card border is slightly different. That is because the website I was using at the time when I was first creating these commanders to kind of give me a basis of how the set would go. This was one of the few card frames that I could use at the time. Since then, obviously, if I go back a page, they've updated their list, and I really felt like this card frame really fits well with what the set indicates, but this was the card frame I used at the time. Anyway, side note, Kira, Precursor Genius, really focuses on harnessing the power of the Precursor artifacts. That's kind of what she does in the game, is she harnesses the power cells, or power stones for magic, that you get throughout the game, and then uses them to power different artifacts that help us progress through the main story. So she is all about utilizing power stones in a more efficient way than we can. She can turn your power stones into mana dorks, essentially, so then you can use them to cast any of your spells, not just artifacts. Also, she has a great way to protect your board by giving them this crazy keyword soup as long as you have 20 or more power stones. Permanents you control have hexproof, indestructible, haste, flying, vigilance, and menace. This is to reflect back during the game. You have to get through certain areas of lava or fire on this little like Agrav zoomer that's pretty much a hover bike, and you have to like speed through and get through the tunnel as quick as you can. But the more power cells you gain, the more defenses that hovercraft gets from the lava and stuff. So this is to emulate kind of the end game level that Kira can provide your heroes with. And then of course, one of the themes throughout the entire game is sometimes you just need to buy power cells from the various characters in the game with your precursor orbs. So, and of course the cost for that generally is 90 precursor orbs. So I tried to emulate that in the game by saying pay 9 mana to get a Power Stone token. So you could create 9 treasures pay the 9 treasures, make a Power Stone. That does add to your count of Power Stones, so you can eventually get to that awesome keyword ability. And Power Stones, even if Kira did not have that first line of text where Power Stones could just be mana dorks, the Power Stones could be used to activate Kira's abilities. So once you reach 9 Power Stones, you can just tap 9 of them, make a Power Stone. Once you make 18 of them, you can tap 18 of them and make 2 Power Stones. So it really ramps up quickly, so you can get to those 20 Power Stones very, very fast. Very cool. Obviously, again, kind of a powerful commander, and it might be a little too powerful because of all the previous artifact support we have in Magic's history, but that's why I made it, so we can talk about it in the comments below what you guys think. Let's get on to the deck concept. To really hone in on the artifacts, whether it's the precursors or even the scout flies that Kira makes to help scout, the power cells and the precursor orbs really do play a big role in how you progress in the game as a whole. So I really wanted to play into that and have ways that you can make a lot of treasures, or you can use those treasures to create Power Stones, or you can use those Power Stones to create more Power Stones, and really just kind of like build an engine that keeps running and running and running, because that's the whole concept of them in the game. You get more artifacts, you get farther in the game. Not a whole lot to talk about, I think, because again, this is a very simple thing to build on, but some highlights from this page that I wanted to talk about is the Precursor Oracle is one of the few deviations from that generic pay 90 Precursor Orbs for each power cell. In the game, you have to pay 120 power cells for or Precursor Orbs for each power cell, and I think I did reference that line of text in the flavor text for this card. And if you go back in the video, and as you keep watching through the video, you can look anytime that there is flavor text on these cards. It is a direct line from the game. I went on and I found the script of the game, and I would look up references from certain points to try and really bring the life and the flavor and the love that I have for this game into these cards. So all the flavor text that you read on these cards should be from the game script, which is really cool. A few sagas in this set. The sagas, this one in particular, free 7 scout flies. This one's cool because it's one that stays out for 7 turns to emulate. Each turn you're freeing one of the scout flies from those boxes that you can see in its card art. And then at the end, you can create a slew of tokens, of Power Stone tokens, because there are multiple, almost every level in the game that has 7 scout flies that you can free. So the final chapter is kind of emulating the end of the game. By the end of the game, you've rescued so many scout flies that you've accumulated a ton of Power Stones. And I feel like that's pretty balanced, because after 7 turns, you might not have all of those scout flies in play, so you might not get all 6 Power Stones from it. So it really depends on how you play the game and how the game progresses throughout your time playing. One of the other ones that I wanted to highlight as well is Warp Gate. The Warp Gate is simply a way that you can fast travel essentially in the game. The way I play the game, I never really need the Warp Gate because I like to 100% every level before I ever even leave, which you can do in this game, which I think is really cool. With the exception of the Mountain Pass is one area that you need to come back to after you flip an Eco Vent switch. But aside from that, the Warp Gate is really cool. It's all about transporting your characters from one location to the other. So the way I emulated that was simply, this is a way you can flicker your creatures in this set. One of the very few and only ways you can flicker creatures in this set, which is cool because when you have cards like the Eager Explorer, it has an Enters trigger, which the Warp Gate can use. Let me go back real quick. Also, we do have the Agrav Zoomer, which is that card I was referencing. Once Kira gets enough things, she like makes it super powerful. Really cool card that I had a lot of fun designing, but that's also the influence and inspiration for Kira's ability. Okay, next we have the focus on... Oh, I don't have the little text for this one either. That's so sad. Let me see. I don't think I had... Precursor Legacy. I'm going to pull this up so I can... I did not have a name for this one yet. But I did want to... I think I was calling it like the People of Mar is what I was calling it. And that was a placeholder name because there's no identification of the world that you play in, which is also kind of unique. I love that part of this game, but it made it a little bit difficult in some cases when designing this set. So this world technically doesn't have a name, but I wanted this to represent the Saga's commander deck to really hone in on the people of the game that you are helping, that you are doing missions for, because most of the missions you get come from the various villagers that you meet along the way. So the placeholder name for this commander deck is the People of Mar, which actually references the sequels to this series, but I really couldn't think of another name for this deck right now. So I'm calling this the People of Mar, even though I also don't have a text box up here, which is a little sad. I thought I did, but the headliner for this deck is Samos Hagai, who is the main mentor and sage of Jak and Daxter throughout the games. He's the one who's giving you missions to go on. He's the one who initially gives you the quest that you go on, because after Daxter falls into the Dark Eco Vat and becomes an Otzel, Samos is like, well, you gotta go find Gall Acheron, and he'll turn you back. So he's the one who sends us on our quest initially. So I chose him as the headliner because he gives us the main quest to go on. He also is he and Kira specifically is the one who says the line, but he and Kira reference that there are people along the way that you can interact with, that you can help, and they will help supply you with power cells. So I chose him as the headliner for this deck, and he is the main focus of what the deck is about. Whenever the last chapter of a saga you control resolves, draw cards equal to the chapter number. So if it resolved on chapter 3, you would draw 3 cards. Then you may put a saga card onto the battlefield. So this is just a very cool engine to really go through sagas. One of the things that I think deters a lot of players from playing sagas is sagas can be slow. They do something initially, but usually people are trying to get to that last effect, and sometimes it can take a while to get there. Sagas can be 3 chapters to up to 7 or to 5, or they can last a couple turns, but sometimes the power level of sagas is not that great. So Samos Hagai is a way that you can really take advantage of that patience. If you're willing to wait the 3 turns to resolve this saga, then you should really get benefited for that. So he's a great way that you can benefit from your sagas and then immediately start your next quest without having to stress about playing that saga and then playing another saga. He just lets you get immediately started on your next saga, which is really cool. And of course, because I had to, I love Proliferate, so I did give him a Proliferate ability so you could speed through your sagas as fast as possible. I think, again, this one might be a little powerful for sagas, because there are some really cool sagas out there. There are some really powerful sagas out there, but we'll have to discuss in the comments below. I think this would be a really fun deck to build around. This is kind of what the deck idea would look at. Again, really trying to hone in on the fact that there is diversity in eco devotion. So there's a lot of hybrid mana, focusing on like the precursor artifacts. They help filter your eco, so they can help provide for that light eco that you need at the end of the game to win. And then, of course, there's a lot of creatures in here, and the creatures benefit from you completing the tasks that they send you on. So the Bird Watcher, the mission she sends you on in the beginning of the game is go rescue this egg, and I will help raise this flut bird, which is kind of like a unique version of an ostrich, essentially. But I will help raise this bird, and then you can use this bird later in the game to solve puzzles and so on and stuff. So to make a play on that effect is at the whenever the last chapter of a saga you control resolves, create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. The same is true for the dozing farmer. He needs help getting his cattle back into their stall. So whenever you complete the last chapter of a saga, you get a, what is it, a 0... Again, my monitor is a 0/5 white ox creature token. So the more chapters the more sagas you complete, the more defense that the dozing farmer can provide. Village Sculptor is one that is really cool because he is a fun reanimation creature for when you complete sagas, which I think is really cool. And then, let me see, was this one in the last chapter? I'm reading the Curing the Eco Plants. Whenever the last chapter of a saga you control resolves, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Oh yeah, so this is a great way that like you can utilize and get back sagas and stuff like that. One of the last things I want to highlight is the Open Says Me card. I came up with a list of things from the game, whether it's characters, enemies, items, objectives, main story points, and as I was going through them, I was like, okay, well, there are card types that I need to fill, like instants and sorceries, that a lot of these things don't fulfill. So I actually went on and I went to the trophy system, because when I played this game, I played it on PlayStation, and they have a list of trophies that you can get while you're playing the game. So Open Sesame is actually a trophy you can get in the game. So I made that trophy into a card for a sorcery. So you may see more of that as I do other sets in the future, as fun little references to this game. And then lastly, commander deck idea is focusing on the lurkers. Now with a little bit of a twist, because Gall and Maya, Gall is actually a sage of Dark Eco. So in the original slide where I was showing off the mechanic of the lurkers, I'll go back to that real quick just so I can actually show you guys in case you didn't read it. So this Gall Acheron and Maya Acheron as separate commanders actually really focus in on the lurker creature type, because they use the lurkers to help find precursor artifacts so they can help so they can open the silos. That's kind of their main goal in the game. So these versions of the commanders really focus on the lurkers and being aggressive and attacking the villagers of the world. So they have cool anthem effects, like giving them death touch and letting them have flash. And then Maya can obviously give them haste and menace. So really anthem, really cool, very focusing on the creature type of lurkers. Now going back to the Precon commander, I wanted to focus on the lurkers still, but Gall Acheron more specifically is a sage of Dark Eco, so I wanted to play a little bit of both lurkers and devotion into this deck. So this is probably one of my most favorite ones that I designed from this whole set, because I put in that line of text, cards in your graveyard count towards your devotion, which I think is really, really cool. I think maybe if I were to do this again, I would specify that it counts towards your devotion to black. because that's really what he's about. He's about Dark Eco and harnessing Dark Eco specifically. So if I were to go back and reword this, I would reword it as Devotion to Black. If I had to errata this card, Devotion to Black specifically. And then as long as your Devotion to Black is 10 or more, each player plays with the top card of their library revealed. I felt okay having everyone play with the top card of their library revealed because in the game they do kind of reveal their plans to the heroes. So you as Gaul and Maya do reveal your plans to your opponents. So I thought that was kind of flavorful that each player reveals the top card. Also, if your devotion is 20 or more, and this is of course to black still, if your devotion is 20 or more, you may play cards from the tops of those libraries. So this is a way that you can kind of follow suit with more of what they are doing in the game. They kidnap the sages and force the sages to help them build this machine that they're going to use to open the silos. So this emulates us going to our opponents, stealing things from them, raiding the villages, stealing precursor artifacts, and casting things from the top of their library so we can benefit from them. And then to look at kind of the deck at a whole is, I really just wanted to throw in all of my favorite lurkers. Obviously the Lurker Shark is a huge character in the entirety of the franchise because it makes a comeback in multiple games as a reference, and even in the Daxter PSP game that I played recently on my channel, there's like giant lurker sharks, which is really cool. There are other lurkers on this list that will benefit you as far as like anthem effects, like the Dark Eco Plant makes lots of little lurkers that you can boost up. Claw, the Boulder Thrower, is a really cool card and just really it's a cool card because it's a lurker. It provides to your black mana, but he also really just cares about red mana because he's just angry and throws things. He's a really cool fling commander. And then the other thing with this deck is it's really focusing on what the precursors on what Gaul and Maya are trying to do by building the Precursor robot, which I called the Junk Precursor. You'll see why when I come back for like Jack 2 and Jack 3. So the Junk Precursor, it was going to be the Junk Precursor Robot, but that's a little bit long of a name to fit the mana cost here. And the mana cost is a whopping 6 colorless pips. So if they can get this, then they have a really high light mana devotion, which is really cool. And it's also a very powerful card. It kind of focuses on each of the parts of it, which is using the different colored eco types, which is very fun. And there's a lot of flavor in this deck as far as like stealing your opponent's stuff, because they are raiding villages, like I said earlier, trying to steal whatever they can from their opponents. They are trying to dig up precursor artifacts to build this junk precursor. They have lurker cannons because they're trying to, again, bombard and raid the villages, so they're trying to destroy whatever is in their path. Very fun, very flavorful, very aggro, and very aggressive, and a very big threat at the table. So that was what I was trying to emulate with this deck, and I think it's pretty cool. I like it a lot. Alright, that is all the cards from the set. Obviously, we're going to be looking at other cards as well, as you can see here, because I did want to try and keep every page unique, so that way I could cover as many different cards as I could, which did make a lot of work, because I had to design pretty much a mechanic and a card from scratch every single time, but in the end of the day, very much worth it. So that is covering all the mechanics, and that is covering all the Precon commanders that I wanted to talk about. Now, just kind of getting into the fun aspect of it. Obviously, the frame and the border of all the cards, I chose this frame because it felt most flavorful to the theme of the game. Very artifact focused and very eco focused. So these frames, I believe, are from Kaladesh, which was a very artifact focused set. So that covers the artifact, but I love the colors of the like the mana colors in these cards. So I just love the way that it looks. So to me, it felt perfect for covering the precursor artifact aspect of the game, as well as the beautiful color that comes from the eco in the game. On top of that, for all of the art style, like the special art for this set, what I did was I actually just grabbed the concept art from this game and made that the art series of the game, because I love the concept art. Concept arts of games are really cool. It gives you a window into what the game could have been, and it shows the evolution of where the game started to where the game ended. I enjoy art concepts for games, or art concepts for movies and stuff like that. So it's a great way to showcase the history of this game that I love so much in a fun, unique way. So I made unique cards, trying to cover as much bases as I could, but I used art, concept art for the game. So obviously Plains is really cool. I love this. This is actually not a location that you ever get to go to in the game, but it's like a blend of the first village that you start in. But because of the tiers and stuff, it makes me think of a certain spot in like Sentinel Beach. So it's like, it's cool to see how this art for the Plains card evolved into what eventually became Sandover Village. So yeah, I don't know. I thought this was cool. This is something that I'm definitely wanting to do for the other games, because again, I think the concept art from the games is a great way to showcase the history of that game. So very cool stuff. Of course, like I said earlier, I wanted to try designing my own supplement cards for like the other game formats that you could play, which the first one we're talking about is Plains Chase. This is, again, this plane, this world doesn't actually have a name. So all we know about this world is that it was built by the Precursor. So I called this the Precursor built world. It is a Precursor world. So that is what all the future stuff for the Jack series, when I come back to do other Jack games, will be called. It'll have its own name, but it will be the Precursor world, because the Precursors did build this world. So that's what we're doing. Because the first game really focuses on you mastering eco and being able to use eco in cool, unique ways. And I don't know if I've seen... I'd have to go through my Plains Chase cards, but I don't know if I've seen a Plains Chase card that really cares about devotion specifically. So this is a plane that cares about devotion specifically. Its base ability is that it just increases each player's devotion by 1. Whether it's one color or a combination of colors, it increases it by 1. So really, really cool there. And then whenever chaos ensues, choose a color. Add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. This mana cannot be used to roll the planar die. This is essentially the devotion legendary land ability on a plane, which I think is really cool. I think this can add a lot of crazy powerhouse plays if chaos ever ensues at the table while this plane is in play. I think this would be a lot of fun to play with. I love Plains Chase. We have had some crazy games because of Plains Chase. It's a lot of fun. Moving right along, the other format that we like to play in our pod is the Archenemy format, where it's 1 player versus, generally it's 3, but our pod has worked it out that we can provide the appropriate amount of life and stuff for 2v1 or like 4v1, and still keep it interesting and fun for the group to play with. So I made 3 scheme cards to go along with Archenemy that you can add to that supply. We're not going to take it. Big plans for you. I'd hardly call it struggle. Those are all lines that Gaul and Maya say throughout the game, and the card on the end, I'd hardly call it struggle, That art is actually a concept art for a scene, but in a different location. So that is a concept art there. And then I really just wanted to hone in on like the fun stuff that this game provides and flavorfully apply it to schemes that Gaul and Maya are doing. So this, of course, would be a deck that you... these are cards that you would want to put in your archenemy deck if your deck was themed around Gaul and Maya. We usually do archenemy with the commander format, so this would go great with the Gaul and Maya commander decks. We're not going to take it. Also, oh yeah, oh my gosh, I need to say this. So we're not going to take that. I have to make this note. Oh my goodness. I gotta look up his name because I don't remember it. But one of the craziest things that I learned about this game that I didn't know for years, you may be wondering, why is it we're not gonna take it? Why is that like ringing bells in my head? That is because the Jak and Daxter Precursor Legacy game has an amazing cast. An amazing cast. Let me, boom. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yes, come on. Okay, So just one small note before I get to the big one. If you ever liked Batman at all, Batman, one of his most iconic voice actors for the animated or video game Batman, is Kevin Conroy, which is a phenomenal voice actor. I've loved Kevin Conroy's work as Batman so much. If you ever liked Kevin Conroy's work, he voiced the Fisherman from this game. So, just so cool. I love that. If you ever play this game, go find the Fisherman. That's voiced by Kevin Conroy. Gaul Acheron, right there on the left, or on the right if you're looking at the guy in the blue trench coat, he's voiced by no other than Dee Snider. If you do not know who Dee Snider is, I believe he's the lead vocalist from Twisted Sister. If you don't know who Twisted Sister is, you may know the song We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister. The We're not gonna take it, no, we ain't gonna take it. That's Dee Snider. And Dee Snider voiced Gaul Acheron. And I never knew that for so many years. But in the final boss fight, there's a moment when you are in the boss fight and you've finally gotten past all the various challenges of the boss fight, when the eco beams converge and they form white eco in its pure state. After that cutscene, white eco bubbles start to fall on the map. During that moment, you'll have to listen closely, but you can hear Gaul say in the ship, "We're not gonna take it." It is a clear reference and Easter egg to the fact that Dee Snider is from Twisted Sister, who sings the song We're Not Gonna Take It. And they just threw it in there because, and I absolutely love that Easter egg. It's so cool. So I had to make it its own card. We're Not Gonna Take It is an ongoing scheme. You and permanents you have, or it should be you and permanents you control, have Ward 1. So a little bit of a typo there. You and permanents you control have Ward 1. At the end of your opponent's end step, they may discard... It should be at the beginning. Man, there's a lot of typos here. I was kind of rushing this at the end. At the beginning of your opponent's end step, they may discard cards with total mana value 6 or more. If they do, abandon this scheme. So, really cool form of protection. It fits with what the card is saying. We're not going to take it. But also, it's just a reference to such a cool Easter egg in the game, which I didn't know about for so many years. I absolutely love that Dee Snider voiced a villain in a video game. I love that Kevin Conroy voiced Fisherman in one of my favorite games. It's so cool. I absolutely love this game. One of the other typos that I did catch early on, but I had already published the card and I didn't want to have to go and remake the whole card, is Big Plans for You. Ongoing schemes kind of act as enchantments, but singular schemes, regular schemes, I guess, are just one and done, like an instant or a sorcery. So Big Plans for You is supposed to read, when you set this scheme in motion, comma. I completely forgot that first line of text. So it just says each opponent exiles the top card of their library. Until end of your next turn, you may play lands and cast spells exiled this way. So that is supposed to say when you set this scheme in motion. That is very key for how schemes work. I did remember to do that for I'd hardly call it struggle, which also is just a mean card because it's all about pillaging your opponents, forcing them to lose their resources, and you gain resources. So very fun stuff, and just an amazing reference. I love it. The last thing I want to talk about, like I said earlier, I did not make any bounties for this set. The next set will actually have several bounties, which I'm excited to talk about, but this set had no bounties. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is Conspiracy. Now, I actually have not played a lot of Conspiracy because Conspiracy focuses mostly on like drafting portion of Magic the Gathering, which is a lot of fun. I have done drafts before with my friends, with my play groups, and drafting is fun. It's not necessarily where I have the most fun when it comes to playing the game. I actually have more fun just designing the deck, building the deck I designed, and then playing that deck. So I'm not a huge draft fan, but I understand the fun that comes from draft. So I did design Conspiracy cards, and I will continue to design Conspiracy cards, but I may theme them not so much towards drafting, but more just towards like just generic gameplay, because I think Conspiracy would be a lot of fun to play with. It would add some definite spice and interesting interactions in the game, especially if like you drafted Conspiracies with a deck that you constructed, and you had to pick a Conspiracy that worked best with your deck. So that way it kept things interesting and different every time you played. But anyway, opening the silos has a hidden agenda. A hidden agenda is one of the types of conspiracies you can have. Essentially, you have this face down as well as a card name hidden, and then at any time, I don't remember if it's at sorcery speed, you may turn this conspiracy face up at any time and reveal that name. So at any time in the game, you can just flip both the card name and the conspiracy face up, and then you get whatever that conspiracy is. This one is whenever you cast a spell with the chosen name, create an amount of tapped power stones equal to that spell's mana value. So just to play on, like, Gall and Maya are trying to open the silos, so they need precursor technology to open the silo. Power cells are a great way to get more artifacts in play that you can use to open up the silos, to increase your devotion. It's just a cool way that you can ramp in the game, but kind of keep it hidden from your opponents that you want to ramp at some point. So, cool card, very interesting. Again, I've never really played Conspiracy, but I have done drafts before, so I'd love to get your guys' insight on different ways that I could take this route of ideas. But that is going to be the end of this set. What I should do in the future is build a closing slide where I go back to the beginning. But that's going to do it for this set. I had a lot of fun building this set. This was a blast to build around. This game is one that I actually know very well front to back, so it wasn't too hard to like come up with concepts and ideas for it. It just took a long time because I designed a lot of cards for this set. But I had so much fun doing it. I loved every moment of being able to like bring these cards to life. I've had my mouse on the screen this whole time. Real professional of me, I know. Oh, it's just been so much fun. So that is my concept idea of how I would design a Magic the Gathering set for Jack and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. I think I would call this set the Precursor Legacy as well. especially because the future games are just Jack 2 and Jack 3 and Jack X. So it's like, I don't know how exactly I would name those as far as set-wise, but at least this one was pretty straightforward. This is the Precursor Legacy, so I had so much fun building this set. There's so much that I talked about in this set. This was a much longer video than I've done for a long time for Magic the Gathering, but I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you guys. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because I'd love to talk about some of the ideas and concepts that I discussed in this video. It's so cool. I had so much fun. And I am planning on doing this again. That was a lot of stuttering right there, but I am planning on doing this again. I've already started, like I said way long ago at the beginning of this video, I've already started on the next concept design for the next game that I want to do in my series. So I'm very excited to talk more about that when that comes up, but I'm really excited and I'm really happy that I finished this. This has been something I've been working on for a while now, and I'm finally done with it. So we're going to be moving on to the next one. I can't wait to hear you guys' comments. Yeah, I think that's all I have left to say. I want to know what you guys think. I want to have a discussion with you guys. Did I go too far with this, with the creature design and with the set design? Is it too crazy? Or do you guys think it fits perfectly with what's going on with Magic right now? Would it work well flavor-wise, referencing back to previous sets? And that's another thing I want to do when designing these. I don't want to get too crazy with the designs. Like, yes, some of the designs are maybe too powerful, but they're not too crazy. Devotion is a mechanic we've seen before. I just elevated the power level of Devotion. Lurkers is a new creature type, but I'm taking inspiration from like other creature types to elevate and to make its own unique thing. Power Stones Treasures is already way too powerful as it is, so I just made more powerful stuff for it. Sagas is a really cool archetype that is kind of mid-tier as far as power is concerned, so I tried to raise the power a little bit on what Sagas could do in a game. So I don't want to try and make a new thing. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here by making brand new mechanics and stuff. I'm trying to make cards that you could already see in the cycle, just maybe power crept a little bit. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you so much for your patience. I know this has been a long time coming, and I've been talking about it for months now, about it coming out, maybe even a year talking about it coming out now. I don't even remember when I started this project. But thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for all your support. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!